Right people, we have news regarding the glass that Apple's using on iPhone 17 because apparently not only is it going to be more scratch resistant, but it's also going to be anti-reflective. And that last part is what's interesting to me because if you don't know, the Galaxy S24 and S25 Ultra have anti-reflective displays and they make a big difference, especially when using the phone outdoors in direct sunlight. And so this finally coming to iPhone 17 is great news. But that's not all. Apple is making these displays more scratch resistant, and that's also great news because ever since Apple introduced ceramic shields, the glass does scratch pretty easily, so if Apple could fix that, it would be great because ceramic shield is pretty tough as is. It's just that the air can scratch it, so it would be nice if they could fix that. But honestly, I'm excited for the anti-reflective display. That is going to make a big difference. Now let's talk about a new dual recording feature on iPhone 17. So according to John Prosser, Apple is going to introduce a new feature where you can record from the front-facing and rear camera at the same time. I say new in quotations because I'm pretty sure you can natively do this on the Galaxy S4 back from 2013. So great Apple, they are finally catching up, but what's funny is that apparently this simple feature is going to be a Pro exclusive. I understand they want to tout the Pro phones more as a content creation machine, and a feature like this is most useful for creatives, but it's also something the base model should easily be able to do. So I'm really hoping they don't software lock this to the Pros. By the way, I'm aware third-party applications like Snapchat, for example, already allow you to do this, but natively offering this would be great as well, and as I said, it is about time because Android phones have been able to natively do this for years. Next, let's delve into new cases showing us the ginormous camera module on the iPhone 17 Pro. These case leaks come courtesy of Sonny Dixon, who's a pretty credible source, and the cases themselves aren't very exciting, they're just regular clear cases with MagSafe. However, you can see there is a cutout that spans the entire width of the device, which will encompass the familiar triple lens camera on the left, but the LiDAR scanner, mic and flash will now move to the right side. By the way, if you're wondering why Apple is giving us such a huge camera bump on this year's iPhone, I think it's because of the telephoto lens, which I'll delve into later in the video. Obviously the telephoto will have to be stacked sideways into the device, so maybe more space is required because it's now a larger sensor, hence why they're moving the LiDAR, mic and flash to the right and giving us this much bigger camera bar. Talking about the camera bar, one thing that has been featured in the renders is a two-tone finish, but it seems like this won't be coming to the final model. Mark Gurman believes this aspect of the concepts are false. There will not be a two-tone finish, and the camera bar will be the same color as the rest of the device. So essentially this should be similar to the M4 iPad Pro, which is not as exciting, and Gurman does keep our expectations in check by telling us this won't be as groundbreaking of a redesign as some other rumors have suggested. However, whilst the actual design may not be that exciting, since Apple's switching to a part glass, part aluminium shell, that would allow for more vibrant colors to come to the Pros. Titanium that's currently offered on the 16 Pro is very hard to color, and so as a result, we have some very boring shades. But aluminium, whilst being a weaker material, could allow for Apple to give us bright shades of red, blue or green, which I would love to see with the 17 Pro, even if it's not as durable. But let's forget about the actual look of this camera bump and delve into the upgrades we could see. So for those unaware, we have heard a lot about a new 48 megapixel telephoto lens coming to the 17 Pro. This was the last lens still on 12 megapixels, as the main camera had moved to 48 megapixels with the 14 Pro, and the ultra wide had moved to 48 megapixels last year with the 16 Pro. Now with the telephoto switching to 48 megapixels, Apple plans to offer 3.5x optical zoom instead of the 5x currently offered on the 15 and 16 Pro Max. You may think this sounds like a downgrade, but 3.5x optical zoom is equivalent to 85mm, which is better suited for portraits, which is what most use a telephoto for in the first place. Also, much like the main sensor with its 2x digital crop, having a higher resolution telephoto means digital zoom will be a lot better, and so you can zoom in and get much higher resolution photos with this new 17 Pro. You get a max of 25x digital zoom with the 16 Pro Max, so maybe expect this to be 30x or 40x with the 17 Pro Max, whilst offering higher quality photos at those higher zoom levels. That's nice. What's also nice would be a sub to the channel. It's free and it'll bring you the latest about Apple right to your subscription box, so please consider it. Join the Saranbyte gang now. Anyway, the regular iPhone 17 doesn't look very different and is near identical to the iPhone 16, but we do see the iPhone 17 Air in a new leaked image, and actually leaker Sonny Dixon had also shared a case for the 17 Air, which shows a visor camera bar similar to Pixel devices. However, as you can see, there will only be one camera lens on the left side of the device, and the mic and flash will be on the right. Now there is no cutout below the camera bar on the 17 Air, which does make me think the back panel is going to be completely glass, similar to current iPhones, and only the camera bar could be aluminium. Also, we can see MagSafe is here, so for those worrying this might be too thin to fit MagSafe, thankfully that's not the case. The 17 Air also has space for the action button, as well as camera control, so yes, despite it being 5.5mm in thickness, you are still getting flagship hardware features, even though camera control is pretty useless, so I wouldn't have cared if they removed it. Anyways, Chinese leaker Instant Digital says Apple is going to incorporate a vapor chamber heatsink for better thermal performance, which by the way has been reported in the past by another source called MyDrivers. This technology is already popular in the Android space, and if you're wondering how it works, essentially these chambers spread heat evenly across a large surface area, and this prevents thermal throttling so that the device can maintain its peak performance for longer. This is great news for the Genshin Impact nerds who game on their phones for many hours, but it's not just a benefit for gamers. Taking loads of photos and videos can heat up your device too, so improved thermals would help the camera experience too, since the phone's less likely to dim the screen to make up for it overheating. Now of course I do want to mention the iPhone 16 models did have thermal upgrades, which made a difference in my testing. I believe they had included a graphene sheet to dissipate heat, but a vapor chamber will make an even bigger difference when you're pushing the device to the extreme, like gaming or heavy usage of the camera as Ed mentioned, and ultimately I'll take any thermal upgrades. MyDrivers had suggested the complete iPhone 17 range was going to get this thermal upgrades, and that made sense to me because the Air, especially being so razor thin, does need better thermals to prevent any overheating issues, but Instant Digital claims only the Pro phones with their A19 Pro are getting a vapor chamber system, so that the devices can maintain high performance under heavy workload with virtually no throttling. That's cool, but I would also like to see that come to the complete range, and do remember the complete iPhone 16 range did get the graphene sheet. We also hear from analyst Jeff Poo that we could see 12GB of RAM in the iPhone 17 Pro and Pro Max, up from 8GB in the 16 series. I'm assuming Apple's mainly giving us this RAM upgrade for Apple Intelligence, but it should help apps stay in the background for longer and should also help future-proof these devices. However, do note this only applies to the Pro phones. The regular 17s are going to stick with 8GB, so even if we do see thermal upgrades across the boards, the Pro models will have the upper hand in terms of raw specs, thanks to the A19 Pro and 12GB of RAM. Moving on, the 17 Air may be one of the first iPhones to use a higher density battery. Now it makes sense to use the technology with a device that naturally will have space constraints because it will be so thin, and so a high density battery allows a lot of energy to be stored within a small physical space. This, combined with the fact we should see the very efficient C1 modem, means battery life should still be solid on the Air, which is good to see because that was undoubtedly a concern many would have with such a thin device. And it's not just the Air gaining a larger battery, the Pro Max also is getting a battery boost. Leaker Ice Universe mentions the device will be getting even thicker, with it now being 8.25mm in thickness, which is a 0.475mm increase due to a larger battery. Now I do wonder if it's only the Air using the higher density tech or if it's the complete range getting this upgrades. I'm guessing it's only the Air for now because it's new technology, but since there's no space constraints as such with the Pro Max, they can just pack it to the brim with a humongous lithium-ion regular battery, and I'm still waiting for the day we get a 5,000 mAh battery in the iPhone. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments, make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this, and thank you for watching.